I'm joined now by my panel, writer James McPherson, Spectator Online editor Alexandra Marshall, and New South Wales Liberal MP Tanya Davies. Great to see you all. Tanya, I'm going to start with you. What did you make of the whole kerfuffle, really? First of all, Senator Faruqi's remarks and Pauline Hanson's tweets, essentially asking her to go back to Pakistan, the response, the censure motion, etc. Tanya, you're in the New South Wales Parliament. You see a lot of this sort of carry on, but what did you make of this story?
Well, I thought once again the Greens like to only reflect on the ills of others, not to reflect or ponder their own ills and their own vices. So certainly Lydia Thorpe and Mehreen Faruqi have made awful statements in the chamber in relation to our country, our people, and most recently the passing of Her late Majesty the Queen. Yet when they are challenged on their thoughts, they literally stand there saying, you know, we are pure as white as snow, you are the problem. And so this censure motion was really quite laughable because they're all agreeing to treat each other with respect inside and outside the chamber, yet they'll be the first people to break that commitment. Certainly I don't condone racist and misogynistic language in any part of society, but certainly the Greens are the first to point the finger, and they rarely are the ones that admit that they are wrong in any of these debates.
James, you know, Conservatives tend to cop it. We were talking last night here on the show about Lydia Thorpe being accused of bullying and so forth, this sort of thing, and yet nothing to see here. But the moment Pauline Hanson says something, whether it's a joke, whether it's offensive, is up to others to decide. But is there a double standard at work here?
There's absolutely a double standard. It was in 2019 that Senator Faruqi said that the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, should, well, I can't say it on television, but get lost, right, with very colourful language.
With an F in front of it, yes.
Exactly. But when Pauline Hanson says to Senator Faruqi, who simply said that Australia's built on stolen land, stolen wealth, stolen people, well, Senator Hanson was not racist. She simply suggested in a very succinct way that Senator Faruqi has other options.
That's one way of putting it. Alexandra, the left love to play this game where it's, you know, a form of words like, well, you can go back to Pakistan if you don't like it here. That suddenly becomes a racist meme because it's like you're telling people of a certain race to leave the country, etc., blah, blah, blah. What did you make of it?
Well, let's talk about the Greens telling people who were quite literally brought here in chains, their ancestors, to pay reparations for colonising when they were brought here by force, usually for stealing because they were hungry. But if we're talking about forget censure motions, we've got literally the Greens candidates walking to Parliament saying they're there to infiltrate the system. They shouldn't be censored, they should be thrown out of Parliament.
There you go. Yeah, look, it's a strange one, Tanya, because there are certain buzzwords like go back to or go whatever that are triggers for the left to accuse you of racism. But at the same time, the underlying premise, Tanya, of we're all on stolen land, et cetera, surely is that we should all leave and go back to the lands that we came from. Isn't that kind of the underlying suggestion?
Well, I think that would require most Australians to depart this land, and perhaps that's ideally what they want. At the end of the day, my question I'd love to ask these lefties and these woke people is, which country would you have preferred to have founded and colonised this great land of Australia? Would you have preferred China and their history of human rights, or would you have preferred North Korea and their history of human rights? I think we are very, very blessed as a nation to actually have England come to this nation and colonise it and found it and actually build a nation up from the scratch. And have there been things that have been done badly and terribly in the past? Yes, on both sides. And there's a lot of work we're doing to repay and to build those bridges, but it takes two to reconcile. And I would like to actually see more support, more effort from behalf of those of the Indigenous community to work with the rest of us here who call this great land Australia to build collaboration, to work together. We are, in fact, as Scott Morrison declared on his own, we are one Australia. We are young and we are free. We are the one nation and the one country, and we need to work that way.
Isn't that a joke that we went through all that business of we are one nation and now Albanese is desperately trying to divide us into two nations. So this lot have a voice and that lot don't have a voice. But anyway, the Greens are often accused of smoking the wacky backy. Well, David Shoebridge, the Greens MP, has now announced that he's giving notice of a draft bill to legalise cannabis nationally. Alexandra, your thoughts?
This is a topic that really frustrates me because all the money we spent trying to get kids to stop smoking, they're now going to open up the door and say, let's try illicit drugs and see how that goes. If you want to know how that goes, have a look at California. So they are the best test case for this. And since they started legalising marijuana, they have the highest incidence of drug abuse in the world. So great show there. They've also got a huge mental health problem. And the Greens go on and on about closing the gap for Indigenous people. Well, the people most affected in California from legalising marijuana are people of colour and Indigenous Americans. So because using marijuana leads to increased addiction to alcohol. So it is the worst case scenario. So in order for the Greens to get a few tree-hugging hippie votes because they like to smoke weed, they're going to endanger Indigenous communities for their politics. It just shows that they have no idea what their unintended consequences is and they're perfectly happy to throw civilisation into the bin to win a few seats.
James?
Well, you've got to wonder what is the Greens' obsession with marijuana. Last year, their leader, Adam Bant...
Votes, that's it.
He said...
Roll up a few votes in the ballot paper. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Adam Bant said, look, I'd be proud of young people if they left school and spent 2 years smoking pot. He tweeted that.
He did.
And now you've got David Shoebridge wanting to legalise cannabis. David Shoebridge, incidentally, also wants a 4-day week. So
yes, a day to smoke dope. Yeah, that's all.
Ironically, he wants a 4-day week because people have mental health issues.
Right.
So he's worried about mental health issues and at the same time trying to legalise cannabis, which in California, as Ali said, a very left-wing state of the US, they are now wanting to put warning labels for mental health issues on cannabis products.
And can I just say, it doesn't solve crime either. The big thing is, we get all this tax break out of the marijuana money. In California, 3/4 is illicit trade, and the ones that went up were illicit dealing in marijuana. So they made basically nothing out of it.
You know, the other thing here, though, is David Shoebridge said, we've got to legalise cannabis because otherwise we're going to be left behind.
Oh.
Well, I think there's 7 countries that have legalised cannabis, and he's worried we're going to be left behind. They don't call it dope for nothing.
Tanya?
Look, there is a plethora of studies out there linking cannabis use, marijuana use to mental health issues, anxiety, depression, all the way up to psychosis and schizophrenia. And there's even recent studies linking the taking of cannabis when a woman is pregnant, and I say a woman on purpose, is pregnant.
Can you, while we're here, quickly, definition, please, Tanya, definition. A woman
is an adult female that has 2 X chromosomes.
Fantastic. Thank you. That'll do it. Carry on.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. Very clear evidence that shows a woman who consumes cannabis and marijuana while she's pregnant, that will actually cause a higher likelihood of that child when they hit 11 or 12 to actually develop those mental health disorders. So there's links linking the actions of an adult to the child that they are carrying, which is alarming, let alone all the evidence we already have before us. I have no idea what the Greens are on. Maybe they're on the stuff themselves to come up with these ideas. But they are a dangerous, dangerous influence in our country.
Now, Tanya, I want to praise for 2 days running here, so this is a very special occasion, your boss, Dominic Perrottet. Yet again, second day in a row, going to give him lots of praise. Yesterday it was for telling teachers that, actually, you're not allowed to use your best friend or your union rep to give you an evaluation on how good you're doing your job. Quite a fantastic breakthrough there. Today, Dominic Perrottet has said he will get in the way, he will block this ridiculous Palaszczuk land tax. This is the thing where the Queensland government will tax other states, people from other states who've invested in Queensland. So if you own a weekender or whatever in Queensland, they will tax you on any property you own in another state. It's complete just highway robbery. Perrottet said he's not going to play along with this. He's going to not provide the data that Queensland and by the way, Dan Andrews wants to bring in the same tax. So well done. Your thoughts on this, Tanya?
Well, first and foremost, there is a clear example between what you get when you have a Liberal national premier versus a Labor Premier. And New South Wales, we're coming up to a state election in 6 months' time, and this is a real example of what the community in New South Wales will get if they back in a Labor government. So hats off to Don Perrottet for sticking up for the citizens of New South Wales. But I also want to ask the question is, when is the Palaszczuk government going to reimburse the New South Wales government the $30 million that they still owe us for our government stumping up the quarantine requirements for their citizens?
And just very quickly before we go, Alexandra, KPMG, the financial organisation, say that they now quiz prospective employees on whether they're gay or not. Is this legitimate?
So it's legitimate in the fact that we are now moving towards a system where the companies have these social licenses to use. And so gender and sexuality and race are part of their quotas to give them a better ranking on an international scale. So we have now become, as employees, commodities of corporates' virtue signalling identity, which is a really dangerous thing because you can now be discriminated against in order to achieve diversity.
10 seconds, James?
Yeah, KPMG are members of ACON, which is the Australian equivalent of Stonewall, and they encourage governments and corporations to show how diverse they are and how inclusive they are. So they're looking for LGBTQ people to employ so that they can parade their credentials. It's wrong.
It is wrong. If you object to it, take your money somewhere else, was always my advice.